After 60, some things that used to feel perfectly normal to me started feeling like a complete waste of my life. And one day I caught myself thinking, why am I still doing this at my age? And that's the part that nobody prepares you for. Because once you get to 60, your tolerance for things that drain you, it starts collapsing completely. The people, the obligations, the routines, things you tolerated for years, they suddenly feel heavy because your relationship with time changes. And once that happens, you start seeing your life so much more differently. When I turned 60, I quietly stopped doing certain things. I didn't stop because I'd given up. It was because I finally realised that I didn't want to waste what precious time was left. And here are 5 things I stopped doing after 60. And honestly, life got so much better as a result. Number 1, I stopped caring what people think. This takes longer than most people ever expect it will, because most of us spend our entire lives managing other people's opinions. You do it at school, you do it at work, you do it in your relationships. You worry about fitting in. You worry about saying the right thing or the wrong thing. You don't want to offend people and you don't want to stand out too much. And after a while, you don't even notice you're doing it. It just becomes like the default setting for the way you live your life. Now, I have to admit I used to care much more than I should have done. I cared about my retirement and what people thought, my decisions. I cared about how I looked, what people thought of me. Hell, I still even get comments now about these gnashers, my teeth. They're all my own teeth, by the way, and they're healthy despite the crookedness. Once upon a time, it would have really bothered me. I would have thought about it for hours. Now, I honestly could not give a shit. And the strange part is this. That feels so liberating, because after 60, you start realising that most people are far too busy thinking about themselves to think about you as much as you've imagined. They go home to their own problems. They've got their own fears, their own insecurities to deal with. You can spend decades modifying yourselves just to avoid judgment that mostly exists in your own head. And frankly, that is bloody exhausting. After 60, I just didn't want to carry that kind of weight anymore. And once you stop needing approval from everyone, life feels so much lighter, calmer, and authentic. Number 2, I stopped tolerating arseholes or assholes. This changes fast after 60. You start noticing how different people affect your energy. Some people, they leave you feeling really good. They make you feel calmer, lighter. Others, not so much. They make you feel completely exhausted. And it's not always the obvious people. Sometimes it's people you've known for years. People you've always tolerated. But now you see them differently. They're constant complainers. They're dramatic. They're negative. They're the people who only ever seem to want to talk about themselves. Have you noticed that? They are people who always take, but they never ever give. And when you're younger, you put up with it because work requires it, your business requires it, family definitely requires it. So you tell yourself, well, that's life. But after 60, your tolerance for that kind of thing just goes out of the window. You end up leaving events earlier, you stop answering certain phone calls, you decline the invitations you would once have accepted. You start protecting your peace and your energy. And at first, it can make you feel a bit guilty. I was thinking to myself, am I becoming less social, less patient? Maybe I am. But here's something I noticed that's really important. My life felt a hell of a lot calmer, quieter, and that made me realise some people do not add to your life at all. They drain it. And those are the type of people you have to distance yourself from. So I did. Not out of anger, just clarity about who they are. And honestly, I can tell you that one change alone has improved my life more than I ever expected. Number 3, I stopped expecting too much from people. Now this one has been hard for me. It's been a hard lesson. I am a perfectionist. And when I was younger, I had incredibly high standards of myself and definitely of other people about how things should be done. And what happens when you live like that is you spend a lot of time feeling disappointed, frustrated, annoyed, and in my case, damn right angry, because people don't always think like you. In fact, they rarely do. They don't care like you. They don't operate like you. People are inconsistent. They are distracted. Many of them are self-interested. Some, they just don't have that same level of consideration that you do. And after a while, you start realizing that you cannot build peace of mind around expecting people to be different than they really are. That doesn't mean you become cynical. It just means you become a bit more realistic. You stop taking everything so personally. You stop being shocked by human nature. You stop trying to control people. And life gets easier when you stop expecting perfection from what are imperfect human beings. I think you start seeing people a heck of a lot more clearly at this age. And strangely, that does make life more peaceful. Number 4, I stopped setting complex goals. This really surprised me because for most of my life, I have been very goal-driven. Plans, targets, productivity systems, I've done them all. Spreadsheets, yearly goals, 5-year goals. Everything had to be structured. Everything had to be measured. Now, don't get me wrong. That method of living my life has helped me build a really good life. But after 60, something needed to shift, and it did. I stopped wanting my entire life to feel like a project. I didn't want every day to be fully optimized. I didn't want it to be fully controlled, and I certainly didn't want it fully scheduled. I started wanting something different, a bit more space, freedom, flexibility. I just wanted time to think and time to breathe, time to just exist without feeling like every moment had to be productive. And this is important because a lot of people reach retirement, but they never really leave that productivity mindset behind. They still treat life like it's some kind of performance review. They're always optimizing, always tracking, always chasing the next target. And yeah, that was me. But after 60, you start realizing you can spend so much time preparing for life that if you're not careful, you forget to actually live it. And I think that's the trap. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have direction. I still work towards things, but I no longer want my entire life run by a set of systems. And honestly, that feels like freedom to me. Number 5, I stopped trying to stay busy. This has to be the biggest shift of all because a lot of people retire from work and immediately try to recreate that work. They fill up their calendars with constant activity. They make commitments, always wanting to be doing something as though sitting still is some kind of failure. But after 60, I realised something important. Just because you can fill your time doesn't mean you should. Some days, I don't feel like doing very much at all. I just go with my energy. Years ago, I would have fought against that feeling tooth and nail. I would have tried to ram home the productivity, force the momentum, just force myself to stay busy. Now, no, I don't do that at all because I realised that a lot of busyness is just distraction. Distraction from stillness, distraction from thought, and more importantly, distraction from yourself. And after spending 40 years working to clocks, meetings, schedules, deadlines, who wants every hour of your life to be controlled? Now, at 65, some of my favourite moments are really simple. A quiet walk, a morning coffee, reading one of my favourite philosophy books, just puttering around, sitting in peace with no pressure. And years ago, I would have looked at that life and I would have thought, that looks boring. Now, I embrace the boredom. It looks like freedom. And that's the big mindset shift. After 60, peace starts feeling more valuable than excitement. And that stops feeling like laziness like it once did. And it starts feeling like wisdom. Getting older isn't just about what you start doing. It's also about what you stop doing. It's about what you let go of and what you no longer allow to drain your life. Because at this age, time feels very different. So much more precious because it's ever so much more limited. And that changes your priorities. So here's my question for you. What is one thing you stopped doing as you've gotten older that actually made your life better? Please share it in the comments. I'd love to know. And if this video resonated with you, you might find this one interesting. Watch it next. It's about why I avoid people more than ever after 60. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.